This is Surviving as a Civilian. I am your host, Scott. With the help of my friend Andrew, we created this podcast to share success stories of combat veterans and how they overcame the challenges of returning back to civilian life. These are actual stories told by actual veterans. Content warning: this podcast talks about war, and some of the stories in this podcast contain graphic events of violence and may contain explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Additionally, these veterans are telling their story of how they recall the events. Some of the details may have changed over time. Welcome to Surviving as a Civilian. I'm your host, Scott, here with my good friend Chris Tehoke. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Scott.
Chris, it has been a long time since you and I have talked. I'm very glad you got to reach out to us.
Yes, I'm glad after listening to a couple seasons, I felt I needed to get something out there.
So let's just dive into it. How old were you when you joined the military?
I joined when I was 19.
Okay, and what part of the country did you join from?
I was from outside Buffalo, New York.
Okay. So at 19, did you have a lot of life experiences prior to?
Well, yeah, I had a rough childhood, you can say. Nothing that to write home about, you know. Not until I was 12, and I actually had a steady home. So, I was adopted when I was 12. So that was before that it was kind of rough until I got a good family to live with and take care of me.
Did you get moved around to like foster homes and stuff?
Oh yeah. So from the time when I was in kindergarten till 12 years old, I lived in about 14 foster homes.
Man, Chris, what was that experience like?
Oh, and some of them are good. Some people are really good that do that, and other people just don't want to, use the system and don't really care about you. They just want the money that the state's giving them.
Collect that check, huh?
Yeah.
So, I guess kind of a rough childhood until you hit 12, right? Did things get better at 12?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I was adopted, I had probably the best family that anybody could ask for.
Okay, so graduate high school.
I'm glad they picked me. They picked me, and I picked them. So we're a good fit.
You still good with them? Still talk to them?
With my family? Oh yeah, but both my parents, both of them have passed. My one oldest brother, he committed suicide while I was deployed one time, so that was another rough spot. But
oh my gosh.
But
okay.
Yeah. We still have fights with my little brother and my older brother. We still, we talk, but brother stuff.
When was
so all my brothers are adopted. So I have four brothers. There was four of us, and everybody was adopted.
And it's just the boys, right? All four boys?
Yep.
Okay. So what made you decide to go in the military then?
Growing up, and it's just some of the things, playing Army. We used to play Army all the time. At one of the foster homes, we played Army. We'd go out in the woods and run around, and, with the sticks. We'd have sticks for guns, and that was just something that I loved it. And, I always felt like it was something I could do to give back for. That's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to do it.
Why did you pick the Army over all of their services, though?
Well, that's a funny story because I actually wanted to join the Marines.
Okay.
And I didn't know where the Marine recruiter office was. I knew there in the one place there was, it said recruiting office. You walked in there was Army, Air Force, and Navy, but the Marines were somewhere else. The Navy they didn't do it there. So when I walked in, the Army recruiter was standing out in front. It was actually in front of a bowling alley, and they had their offices right in front of the bowling alley. And the Army recruiter was standing out in front smoking a cigarette. And he's like, "You look like you're looking for something." I told him, "Yep, I'm looking for the Marine recruiter. You know where he's at?" He's like, "No, you don't want to join the Marines. Come on in and have a seat. We'll talk."
And that was it? He sold you right there?
He didn't sold me. No. I was, like I said, I had already gone to college for 2 years, so I was already, I had a little bit of life behind me a little bit. So I said I still wanted to talk to the Marine recruiter, and he told me where it was, and I went and talked to them, and, I think he was just a better salesman than the Marine was.
So at this point, you had 2 years of college already, but you were only 19?
Yep.
How did that happen?
No, I mean, I graduated when I was just before I turned. I would have graduated high school at the end of 17, and then I turned 18 that year.
Okay. Well, good.
So
what college did you go to?
I went to SUNY Brockport.
Okay. I'm familiar with the SUNY system. I don't know about Brockport though.
Yeah, it's outside of Rochester. And
So you had 2 years of college down already,
yes.
and at that point you were like, I need to join the military.
Well, I was doing ROTC at college, and it was to the point where either I was signing on for 2 years. After 2 years, and then you're signed on, then you're basically committing yourself after 2 years. But really, I mean, I got burned out on college. I mean, high school for me was pretty easy. I didn't really study too much. It just came, I paid attention in class and things came to me. But, it's not like that in college. You actually have to kind of teach yourself a bunch of stuff and actually read the books. So I kind of burned out, and I just, college wasn't for me, and I didn't want to keep going.
So you went to the recruiter, you talked to the Marine recruiter, you figured out the Army was a little bit better than the Marines?
Yeah, just the choices that they were going to give me.
Okay. So you must have had probably, at least 45 semester hours, right? At that point?
Yeah, over 40. I know I had at least over 40.
Close to 60,
yeah.
Right? Close to an associates?
Yeah. Yep.
So what did they offer? What did the Army offer you?
Just the choices of what I could do and where I wanted to go and stuff like that. It wasn't, the Marines were like, you're going to go, you do this, and you'll find out. We'll give it to you. I'm like, eh. And, with the Army recruit, I guess, he just sold it. He's like, you can choose whatever you want. We're going to give you the test, whatever you score. We'll narrow down your options. And, he's like,
What'd you end up picking?
And not only that, what's that? Like more freedoms. I guess more freedoms and more choices that were mine instead of this is what you're going to do, this is where you go, this is what you do.
What MOS did you end up picking?
I ended up picking 12 Bravo, a combat engineer.
Yeah, why'd you pick that?
Like I said, playing war growing up, I wanted to be where there wasn't a war back then. I wanted to be with the action.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to do.
Chris, we got to back up. What year was this? I didn't set that up. I apologize.
This was back in 1995.
Nice. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So 1995, Kosovo and Bosnia is kind of going on. The Gulf War just wrapped up, right?
Yeah, Bosnia. I think Bosnia was just starting.
Yep. I think Clinton was in office. He was starting to try to draw down the military, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then amidst all this, you decided to. So the promo videos for a 12 Bravo in 1995 can't be that great, right?
I don't remember seeing a video. When I did get to MEPS, they gave me a book. It was a huge book. They said you can look through here and kind of figure it out. And I had talked to the recruiter, and he was actually a 12 Bravo as well. He asked me what I wanted to do, what I liked to do, and I told him, I don't want a desk job. I want to be out, and I want to do stuff, And he's like, so you want to do infantry? And I said, what? And he's like, you can be a tanker, you can do this. I'm like, I don't want to just sit around in a tank. I don't want to do that. They're cool and all, don't get me wrong, but it's, and he told me that he's like, I do a 12 Bravo, and that was the first time I ever heard. He's like, I'm an infantryman with a PhD, a post hole digger. I didn't even know what that was at the time, but
So
little did I know. I'll find out that
not much changed 5 years later, Chris. When I went through MEPS, they showed me, we had VHS videos at that time, and they showed me all this awesome shit. They're like, oh, welcome to the high-tech world of combat engineering. They're showing explosions, and Mikliks and volcanoes and all this other stuff, and then none of that happened for a while.
Yeah. No. It was a shock. But
so you said you got to pick your MOS and your duty station.
No, he didn't give me. He said you put in your I guess your wish list for your duty station.
Okay. Where did you pick?
I picked Fort Campbell, Hawaii, and Alaska, I believe.
Which one did you get?
Neither. None of them.
Where'd you end up going?
My first duty station after basic training in AIT was Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah. 3rd Infantry Division.
What? How was that experience? So you showed up there probably 1996-ish?
No, 1995. I went to basic at 1990 January 1995.
Oh,
So,
okay. So you made it through. So you showed up to Fort Benning in Georgia in 1995 still, huh?
yep.
What type of unit was that? It was mechanized, right?
It's a mechanized unit, yeah. So, the first thing I did, they gave me the old here's your vehicle, and it was an ACE, the Armored Combat Earth Mover.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea. I did, I guess supposedly back then I never heard of it when I was there, but there was ever I don't know, some course for a driver. And everybody told me, well, an ACE driver is a 12 Fox, not a 12 Bravo. Why are you doing this? I was like, this is what they told me. And here's your ACE. Go get an oil sample.
So how was the experience at Fort Stewart? I've never been there. Explain to me what that was like.
So at Fort Benning, it was.
I'm sorry, Fort Benning. Sorry.
Yeah, Fort Benning. We were, I guess, I don't know how to kind of explain it. It's like so you would understand. So it would kind of be like what 4th Brigade was at Fort Polk. We were the bastards of the division because the whole division, the rest of the division was at Fort Stewart. We were only 3rd Brigade at Fort Benning.
Okay.
So we weren't with the entire division. We were
Gotcha.
separate from the division and we were the only 3rd ID unit as the brigade at Fort Benning. Fort Benning is the infantry training center. So everything around there was training, basic training, airborne, infantry, officer basic, infantry advanced, everything infantry there.
But you guys were stuck there as like a FORSCOM unit, huh?
Yeah, so we were stuck there, and
with,
it was always,
with no top cover, right?
Yeah, you guys are on detail. You got to do this. You're on police call. You got to go do this. We used to drive down the highway and pick up the trash. And meanwhile, going to the field, you're on red cycle, white cycle, blue cycle, and it's just.
How long were you there at Benning for?
Almost 3 years.
Okay. So up till what, 1998, 97, 98?
And in 98, yeah.
Where'd you go after that?
And then I went to Germany.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Were you married or single at this time?
I did get married while I was there.
At Benning?
At Benning,
okay.
Yeah.
So you took your brand new wife, took her over to Germany with you, right?
Yep. Brand new wife over to Germany, yeah.
This is in 1997?
98.
98. So how long was your tour in Germany then?
3 years. When you're married, you do 3 years over there.
Okay. So that happened. Okay. So where'd you go to after Germany?
So while I was in Germany, we did deploy to Kosovo.
Okay.
We were one of the first ones to Kosovo. So that was my first deployment experience. And then after we left from Germany, I came to Fort Drum with the help of the sergeant major in Germany.
Who was the sergeant major in Germany? Remember him?
Oh yeah, he one of the best NCOs I ever had in my entire life. Sergeant Major Joseph Toth.
Oh, okay. I've heard the name.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he was. I was on the PSD. I was on the security testing for the battalion staff for the deployment, and he was getting ready to leave, and he had to do my NCOER. And he's like, "Where are you going when you leave?" And I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "Fort Drum." He's like, "All right." He gave me the phone. He gave me, the number to call branch. I'd never even thought about calling branch.
What rank were you at this time?
I just got E5.
Okay, so he's giving you the number to branch to call to set up your assignment, huh?
Right, and I got called, and Miss Washington, I remember her name, and she's like, "Where do you want to go?" And I told her, I said, "Fort Drum." And she's, "Oh, they're at 120% for E5s. Where else do you want to go?" And I said, "Fort Campbell." She's like, "They're even more than that. So where would you really, really want to go?" And then I knew I wasn't going to go, and I was like, "Fort Belvoir." And she's like, "You're not going there." So I was, "All right, thanks." So I hung up, and Sergeant Major Toth was like, "What'd she say?" Said they're overstrength. He's like, "Hold on." He picked up the phone. Said, "Hey, Miss Washington, Sergeant Major Toth, I got a high-speed E5, wants to go to Fort Drum." She's like, "What's his social?" And then I got an email in my AKL. That's when AKL first came out.
Yeah.
AKL, yeah.
The ASK, the assignment satisfaction key, all that crap came out.
Yeah.
So you got on orders at Drum, huh? Where'd you show up at Drum?
I showed up at Drum in the beginning of December of 2000.
Okay. All right. That was an experience. Did you show up there? You showed up with your spouse, obviously, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So
she didn't come with me when I first arrived. We're from she stayed at home, and I came until we found a place to live and everything. So
gotcha. Okay. So what unit did you end up in at Drum?
I ended up at the 41st Engineer Battalion in Fort Drum.
Nice. What was your experience there?
I loved it. After the initial 5 years or so of mechanized, I finally got to the light of, you're going to walk around, you're going to run around, jump, and jump out of helicopters and save the world.
So what was your what happened after that? What was your experience up at Drum? Did you end up deploying? Because I know that was 2000, right?
So that was in 2000.
So
yeah.
you were stationed there when 9/11 happened, correct?
Yes, I was. I was at Sapper School when 9/11 happened.
What did they do to you guys at Sapper School when 9/11 happened? That's what I want to hear.
They was at the knot corral, and they just came out and told us pretty much, and that was about it.
What do you mean that was about it?
That it wasn't. They didn't even. They just told us that something had happened, and it wasn't good. And there was a lieutenant that he was an engineer lieutenant, but he was in an infantry battalion, and he was the only one that left. Everybody else stayed.
What do you mean he's the only one left?
He left. They called him back to Drum.
Oh, right. Okay. So the rest of you guys...
It was probably like 14 or 15 of us from Drum that went out of the battalion that were at Sapper School.
So explain what they did. They left you guys there because there was no flying. Did they shut down training, or they keep trying to train?
Oh no, everything kept going.
Oh, okay.
Nothing. Yeah.
So they kept going on like it was a normal day. I mean, except for the announcement, they just kept going on.
Yeah.
So Sapper School got done, and then what happened to you guys?
Then everything was. Trying to think. Like that was. We didn't really do anything out. I'm trying to think. I think another platoon from another company was the first ones that left for Afghanistan, and so yeah, we weren't. So that's 2001, and my first deployment wasn't until 2003, when that was Iraq.
Okay, so you came back to Drum after SAP school. What did you stay in 41st?
Yeah,
okay.
Stayed in 41st. It was still 41st. Yeah.
Okay, and then you ended up deploying.
I stayed in 41st. So yep, in 2000 and we'll say 2002, it started like train up. You could, that's all the talk and everything was talking about. WMDs, Iraq, Saddam Hussein, everything. So, we did JRTC. We did JRTC in August. We did NTC in January, and then we left end of March. We deployed just our platoon, my platoon out of Alpha Company, that was attached to 214.
Okay.
Deployed to Iraq.
You guys ended up going to Iraq, huh?
Yeah.
How was that experience?
It was pretty eye-opening. We were actually attached to a special forces group that, kind of like their base security and stuff like that. So we got there, we land, and it's, you got all these SF guys running around doing their thing, and they're like, just go have a seat over there, relax, take your rucksack, have a seat. I mean, my ruck had to weigh close to freaking 150 pounds. We were going in with all our explosives and everything that we had to carry. And I was a team leader, and we just sat down, and you see, tracers going off in the background and, stuff like that. And we were just like, oh, fuck. And it was like eye-opening. And then like, this is it. And other than the Kosovo, I kind of volunteered. They asked for volunteers at first when I was in Germany. And I think it was hard for my ex-wife. She now became my ex-wife by my second deployment. And she didn't understand. Like, I was like, I wanted to go. That's what I wanted to do. This is like, and I tried to explain it to her as like, it's like practicing you're on a football team, but you never get to play a game. And it was hard for her to understand that I wanted to leave her to go, to go to war. But that's what I'd been training for. It's 8 years or so. I wanted to, it was game time.
Yeah, there's a, and I might cut this out later, but just between you and me, there's a time when you have to go and check to see how good you really are. There's a thing where it's like you have to go and see, like, is all the training I've been doing, is what my leadership told me to do gonna work? And then part of it's figuring it out too. Because like you said, Chris, you don't want to go sit in a fucking practice squad for 18 years of your life.
Right.
Or 20 years of your life and just hopefully get some chance to go and do it, It's not like we were pack clerks, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, because we don't get to do a real job every day unless it's war, honestly. Let's be real serious.
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, and it's completely different when you're at the two-way range, downrange, when real bullets are flying. And it's even different when you're playing with freaking, sim rounds and paintballs that, nobody's really going to get hurt. Right.
So it's different. So even in training exercise, even if it's a live fire exercise and somebody gets hurt, there's a medical people standing around. There's no delay in the medical treatment. Unless it's something crazy, you're going to get help.
Yep.
Yeah. So I get it. So first deployment done.
First deployment. Yep. Couple weird, that first, I'll give the one story here at that one.
All right, so Chris, what's the craziest mission you had with the Special Forces guys?
All right, so it was one of the first few days that we were actually in country in Iraq. We were in northern Iraq in Erbil, and so they came in. They had like some guy come over and he was like, "Hey, we need a squad."
The SF guys came over and said, "We need this guy.
We need a squad to go out with us."
Okay.
And not everybody was even in country yet because we were flying in groups. So it was a mixture of a couple engineers and a couple infantry guys. And so we were at an air base that they had taken over. And we were we were in the area where the Kurds were. So they were helping us a little bit. So we got on a C-130, no seats in the C-130, combat takeoff, combat landing, get off to C-130, get on a Chinook, fly, land. They say, "Hey, stand here. Watch our backs. We'll be back." So they take off. Half hour, you hear some gunfire. All of a sudden, they come walking back, and they got about 20 prisoners. Put them on the Chinook, fly back to the freaking C-130. No seats again. So they're all right in the middle of the C-130, combat takeoff, combat landing. And we take them to this old abandoned school that they were using as a detention center. And so we had to actually search these guys, basically make sure, pat them down and everything before they took them into questioning. And as I'm patting this guy down, I basically go blind. Like my eyes just start watering, they start burning, and I can't see anything. I can barely feel it. Like I don't know if my eyes were open or not open, but I couldn't see. And so they take me away, and freaking medics are they have like contact lenses on IV bags, and they're just like forcing them through my eyes for like a half hour. And meanwhile, everybody else is getting in Mach 4 because they don't know what's going on. And they say, "Oh, they found some white powder in this guy's stuff, in his belongings." So I'm like, fuck, And then, after a while, my sight started to come back. My eyes still burn and everything like that. So basically what it boiled down to, I think it was just nasty-ass Iraqi funk that got in my eyes. And
no
we're standing around,
way, dude. That guy had to purposely do it, right?
I swear to God, that's what they kind of boiled it down to. And as we were standing around there, because we were staying there at this abandoned school as the security and everything while this is all going on. And they're trying to, like, what are we going to do about this guy? And I was like, look, fuck, if he's got anything, it's already on me. I'll go back in, pat him down, and freaking you can do whatever you want.
So that's what happened. So your vision come back, and they left this guy in this room, right?
Yeah.
Pulling security, and they were like, this guy might be I guess, human chemical bomb, maybe? Is that that was their guess?
Yeah, something like that.
And you said, fuck it, I'm going to go in. I'm already contaminated if he's got it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So you patted him down, then what?
Then that's all we were doing. We were patting them down, and then they were cleaning them out. Then they would clean them up, and then they took them to the interrogators. And that's all we were doing. We didn't see him after that or anything.
Probably didn't see him at all ever, did you?
I never saw him again. No.
No. No, I understand how the system works over there, Chris. Not Iraq. I've never been to Iraq, but anything else in that deployment? So that was your first deployment, huh?
Yeah.
So you joined in 1995
um,
when Bosnia hadn't really started. Kosovo maybe started kicking off. The 100-Day War was already done. The Iraqi invasion. What were you thinking while you were in theater doing this shit? Like, because it kind of really wasn't what you kind of signed up for, but it was in a little bit. Like you had
right,
been,
we weren't doing an engineer mission.
You had been hoping for some sort of like combat, like we just talked about, to get tested as how good you are. But on the same token, this is out of your wheelhouse.
Right. Yeah. Other than that was one of the main things that we did. And then after that, we started building the base camp. So that's kind of an engineer thing,
So you went from doing missions with the SF guys to start building the base camp.
Yep. We're watching all these other people. You can see and you hear about all these people living in freaking Saddam's freaking palaces and everything. We were living in a tent. We had one fan at the end of the freaking tent. It was like 100 degrees, 120 degrees, and we fucking got a tent. GP large.
Anything else happen at deployment, Chris?
No, not that was the major thing. Other than
So
after that, we building the base camp and pulling security.
So when did you redeploy from that?
So that was actually really short. That was 6 months.
Good.
So that was a short, because once the SF guys were done, and I guess the orders or whatever they did, it was like, yeah, you guys were assigned to them. They're leaving. You guys are leaving.
That's kind of nice, huh? You went back up the drum.
So we went back up the drum, and we got back to drum. The rest of the battalion was getting ready to leave for Iraq or for Afghanistan.
Okay. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
So we were the only platoon left back. Everybody else, the whole battalion left, and we were the only platoon in the battalion that was left back.
How long were you left back for?
It was for a year. So
okay.
I think it was a year that deployment was for the rest of the battalion.
Yeah, I think it was close to 11 months to a year, something like that. It's kind of when they switched it over from 180-day deployments to like mission dependent type deployments.
Right, until mission complete.
Right, until they change the name.
Yeah.
All right. So when was your next deployment?
My next deployment was in 2006.
Okay. Where was that to?
That was to Afghanistan.
And were you still at the drum?
I was still up at drum. Yep. I did my last 12 years at drum.
Congratulations.
Not too many people wanted to stay that long.
No.
But
so
I stayed at drum.
So
and,
it was 2006, you said?
In between that, then when I got back from Iraq, in between that, I was actually, I was tried to stay busy, and I played rugby, and I actually separated my shoulder playing rugby, so I was sidelined for about a year from doing combat engineer stuff. And at the same time, the battalion was training up again to deploy, I think, I'm pretty sure back to Afghanistan. And since I was hurt and I couldn't really take a squad, they sent me to division headquarters. So in 2006, I was part of the division engineer cell and deployed to Afghanistan.
All right, so you're getting ready to go back to Afghanistan.
Yep, back to Afghanistan. So I was in the division engineer cell, and from there, that was, I don't remember how long I was there before we deployed, but once again, I was a line dog. That's all I'd ever known. Freaking in the Army so far, I didn't know freaking PowerPoints and all that other crap that I never wanted to do staff work. But one of the majors there he's like, you know what? I didn't want to do it either, but here, and he freaking made me take all these Microsoft courses on PowerPoint and Word and everything like that. And I guess I kind of became good at it. And, doing PowerPoints for, hey, do up this PowerPoint so brief the colonel so he can go brief the CG. Like, you want me to do? I'm basically doing up briefings to give to the CG.
And you're a staff sergeant at this time?
And I was a staff sergeant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh?
But yeah, that deployment was didn't really do too much. It was all staff work. We did. I mean, there was
the second one.
BSTB.
Sorry, the second one you went to Afghanistan, right?
Yep.
And what province did you guys go to? What province was the headquarters station at?
We were at Bagram. We were the actual CJTF for Bagram. So we were in charge of that whole area up there.
Okay, so you were on the okay, gotcha. And for you, that whole deployment was kind of just night battles, NCO type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty. Yeah, help and brief, and it was weird because a lot of the stuff, none of it was really, was like combat engineer related. It was all about building FOBs and building, PRTs and all these other people building stuff, and it wasn't for me. I mean, the one mission we went on that was awesome. We went out and we blew up a bridge that some villagers were saying that the Taliban were using to cross and attack their village.
Yeah, but it had to have been kind of enlightening just to see the big picture, though, right? As a staff sergeant,
yeah.
like to see how the theater works and how like these general officers shape the battlefield.
Yeah,
like it's
even before we deployed, working over in division headquarters, and even as a staff sergeant, I didn't want to talk to a general. I didn't want to see the general. It's just, but once working over there and you see them, you talk to them, and they're like, yeah, and and it got to and just knowing what they're seeing and what their thing is, and like I said, you're working on the whatever, when you see movies and you're working on the jock floor, and it's just, looks like a big movie theater, and you're sitting at one desk and you're in charge of briefing this one section, and it's just, you got a 90-foot screen up front with 10 different things going on. And
yeah, and honestly, from my experience, Chris, too, is like these general officers or staff general officers, they just want the truth. They don't want bullshit. They don't care about formatting. They just want.
Yeah. They don't want any of the fucking fluff. They really just tell me what's going on so I can move on
right.
to the next.
So I can make a decision and help.
Someone get on their plate.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You got to experience that. So, kind of a not eventful deployment as far as you're considered, but anything happened with that?
No, nothing major out of there. That is when my oldest brother, that was the only thing. My oldest brother did commit suicide when I was over there in 2006.
How'd you get notified?
So I just, so I was married. I did get remarried, and we were, so it was nice. I was on a FOB. I was on Bagram, the biggest freaking air base that was being used at the time, and we had internet. This, the age of the internet had started, and when I was in Iraq, we had phone calls and I wrote letters. If you could get on one of the sat phones, and I wrote letters. Now I'm on frickin' the computer, and we're talking over Yahoo Instant Messenger.
Yeah, I remember.
My wife, and she told me that the FBI called our house looking for me.
The FBI?
Yeah. So yeah, my oldest brother, he got into some trouble and shit. So he was that, and then he committed suicide when they finally found him and got onto him. But so that, my wife told me the FBI, and I was getting up. This was like I got up. I got up, did some PT on my own, came back, showered, and was talking to her before I went into the office, and she told me the FBI was calling about my brother. So I was like, well, did they give you a number? Can I get a hold of them? So I went into the office and used one of the secure phones to call them, and that's how I found out.
I'm sorry.
That was tough. Me and him were probably the closest out of all four of my brothers.
So were you able to get home to the funeral, or was there a funeral?
I did, because I was actually the only brother that they could get a hold of. And it's funny because I'm in Afghanistan and I'm the only one that they could get a hold of. So yeah, I got 2 weeks of emergency leave, and that was here. This is the story you want to hear. So I'm leaving emergency leave. This is right after we get done with this bridge mission that we blew up this bridge for these villagers. I get back to Bagram. This happens, and I'm on a plane to leave. That a couple hours for emergency leave. You know how it works.
Right.
So I'm in civilian clothes, but I didn't bring my sneakers, so I'm wearing my freaking boots. So they fly us out of Bagram to Kuwait. From Kuwait, they try to get you to where you're going the fastest. So for me, the fastest was to fly to London and then to New York City and then into Syracuse. And I was going to fly to Syracuse. My brother was in Vegas. So I was just going to go there. I was going to pick up my wife, and we were going to fly to Vegas and figure out what was going on. I land in London, trying to get it to my next flight, and they have you take off your boots and your shoes and everything. This was the beginning of all that crap. And they're like, "Hey, sir, can you have a seat over here?" I was like, "Sure." And I went to grab my boots, and they're like, "Oh, no, leave those right there." So here I am sitting on a bench, and all of a sudden I can see these two freaking submachine guns standing on both sides of me. I'm like, and it hit me, and I was like, "I know why you're here." And they're like, "You do?" I said, "Yes. I'm on emergency leave. You probably found explosive residue on my boots."
Dang. Dang.
Which is funny because then I landed in New York City and the same thing happened and nothing happened. They just let me get on a flight from New York City to Syracuse.
So you were in the Germany airport, right?
No, I was in London Heathrow.
Oh. And they detected C4, obviously explosives on your boots, right?
Yeah.
Well, how did the interview process go there?
I guess after, I gave them my leave form and showed them my ID card, and, I think it kind of caught on with that they understood that I was actually on emergency leave trying to get back home.
Lucky you. And the New York guys didn't give a shit.
No, they didn't do nothing.
That's so funny. Classic Americans. So where are you at now, Chris? So you've gotten, how many years you got in?
Yeah, so now, that's the end of 2006 here. We came back at the beginning of November, December of 2006. So I'm there, and I think then I kind of made the decision I think I re-enlisted before I made my E6, so I wasn't going to be in def. So I think I made that decision before I re-enlisted for that one.
Okay.
And so I was still ready to go. I was still into it. Everything was still good. I felt we were doing what we were supposed to be doing in both Iraq and Afghanistan. I felt good about everything. And I came back to Fort Drum.
Okay.
And I came back from Fort Drum after that, and then they switched me out of division and sent me back to, which would have been the same company I was in before, which was now 3rd BSTB, Alpha Company 3rd BSTB.
Right.
And when they sent me back over there, it was like a big transition. I think a lot of people had left after the deployment. They came back, and so they sent me into, I was an ops sergeant for a little bit.
For I went Alpha 3rd BSTB or 2nd?
Alpha 3rd BSTB.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I went back to the line and started training up. It was train up again. They'd gotten back. And
what year was this?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. What year was this?
2007, maybe.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So the Afghan push and the Iraq push is going on big time because George Bush Sr. is in charge. He's pushing for the Iraqi thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So you guys are gearing up, ready to go again.
So we're gearing up. Everything's, go to these schools, get this training, everything
quick, quick, because we're getting ready to deploy again, right?
Yeah, and then we were on the deployment schedule again. And that's kind of when I think things got to me all at then. The other two deployments were easier for me. I didn't have kids. My first kid was born in 2006 while I was deployed. I did get home for that. That was my leave, my
R&R.
mid-tour leave
Yep.
for the birth of the baby. And I think that's where things changed for me. I was like, before it was, it was my wife. Yeah, it mattered, but I don't know. Like with the kids, everything changed for me. And that before that, even when I was married, my squad and everything and all the even teams, that was my family. Like I said, I talk to my brothers once in a while, but like my soldiers and everything, that was my family. That's what I was about. And then I had a family, and that was hard for me to I felt like I had to pick or choose which one I wanted.
Right.
And that's where things got hard for me. And, here I am, I'm with my brothers. I'm training with them. I want to be with them. I want the best for them. But the second kid was on the way, and I'm like, it was hard. It was really hard to choose. And like, it put me in that's where I got to the spot just from, I didn't have anybody there for me when I was little, and
Right.
I had to be there for my kids.
Yep.
But this is, the squad's my family. They're, the company is your family. Everybody's family, your brothers. And it was hard for me. And I think that's where my mind switched from, I was all gung-ho about everything to where, I didn't know if I was doing the right thing anymore.
And nobody's ever gonna question that decision, Chris. You understand that, right?
Oh no, I completely, and that's it's hard because this is where listening to some of the earlier seasons got to me, and even I get the whole point of this podcast is to get help.
Yes.
If you need help, get help. And this was, this was early on in the thing, and I think it was still stigmatized that you're weak, and that's how I felt. I never tried to hurt myself, but I didn't put myself in good positions. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
To try to get the decision made for me, because I didn't want to make the decision. And just one night it hit me, and I went into PT the next day and talked to, he was the acting first sergeant and Sergeant First Class Devonshire, and I just, I broke down. I told him, I was like, I can't do it. I didn't feel I could do my job as far as taking care of my soldiers and myself like I needed to. And I did. I went to behavioral health, and I started all the counseling, and they tried to put me on all these meds and shit, and I didn't like it. I think it made me worse. All the meds they tried to put me on made me worse, made me more depressed. And the counselor that I was seeing was, I don't know, it was some old hippie lady, and she tried to hug me and all this crap, and I was just like,
gross.
Lady, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what I'm going through, and it's just like, you read a book, and I don't think that book is telling you what you need to do. And so I did what I had to do just because to kind of get it done with, you know what I mean? So I didn't have to go see this lady anymore.
Okay. So what do you mean by that?
I said what I had to do to make her feel better about it.
Okay.
Even though I know I didn't feel good about it.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Just trying to make myself seem better to her, so she would say, yeah, you're good, and you don't have to come see me no more.
Right.
Even though I know I didn't feel, I still wasn't 100% in my mind. And the whole point of your podcast is, if you need help, get help. if you can get and I feel like I said this is the beginning. I think this was really when everything was first starting, and I felt after this happened, and I told the first sergeant at the time, and like I felt like I was ostracized by the company. Like, he's no good to us anymore. And like nobody really talked to me. So that, and I think I'm hoping that things change since I've gotten out of the Army, that that it's a lot better. But this is one of the things that
Chris,
I wanted to get out for your thing.
Yeah. No, Chris, I agree. So things have changed. It's gotten a lot easier. It's gotten a lot better to get help. I'm still in, by the way.
Yeah.
So I will say though. So what year was this? That approximately that this happened?
Probably around 2008, beginning in 2008.
So I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to make excuses for anybody, but a lot of those guys that were senior leadership probably didn't know how to handle this stuff.
Oh no, I totally that's what I'm saying. It's changed. That was kind of a new thing. I think not that it was new, but it new to like our generation of soldiers.
It was very new at that time because they went from Vietnam vets who just got really ostracized if they ever tried getting help, and then to what we had going on, what you had going on. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Right, and I think I tried. I had some conversations with a couple of the senior guys that were over there, and I tried to explain it, and I don't think they really got it until one of them actually got in an IED. I think that deployment. So what ended up with that? So the first sergeant didn't make me deploy. He made me the rear D. So I became the rear D commander for the company for that deployment. So that was the 2009, I believe, deployment for the battalion.
Okay.
So one of the platoon sergeants there, I'm not going to say his name, but you probably know who he is. He got in a IED, and he got hurt. And I think it hit him that I used to tell him all the time that, that I felt like I was just a number. That, yeah, the Army is, they're going to, oh, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome, until they can't use you no more. Then, we're going to find the next guy that's awesome.
Yeah, and honest God, up until probably,
pretty good.
I would say, honest God, up until probably 2015 or 14-ish, I think, maybe 16-ish. That's what they thought. You're just a number. So, I agree. The Army behavioral health system sucked at a point to where they just either threw pills at you till you got better, or decided you need to get out.
Yeah.
It's all about putting that person back in the inventory.
So I think I kind of, and even that deployment, some things were hard. We did lose one soldier out of the company, and that was hard. He was a young soldier, and I've had him over to my house for barbecues and shit like that. So that was tough. Having to, we would go pick up his dad and his sister, and they had their ceremonies here at Drum, and trying to deal with that, and still listening to everything going on over there. But I think I found a place that, in my mind, that I had to go to. Of not that it was good, that I just kind of turned into myself, and kind of blocked everything else out, and just worried about me and not everybody else.
So where are you at now?
So I did do one more deployment after that, so I still had time on my contract before I got out. So I did do one more deployment to Afghanistan. And in order for me to deploy, I went back to the division engineer, and I was the Mine Action Center NCO in 2011 for deployment there to Afghanistan.
Where was the headquarters at?
No, we were in Kandahar for that one.
Okay. And it was 10th Mountain Division. That was the main headquarters?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The first time that the U.S. had taken over there in southern Afghanistan.
How was that experience?
That was probably one of the toughest ones that I did. I mean, not tough, it's just mentally tough. So I was a mine action center. I would go on all these force protection things for all these FOBs and outposts and everything that everybody was building because it was a new area. And everybody was building new FOBs, making sure there was no minefields in the area, how they're, did they put their HESCOs up enough and all this other stuff, all this new technology that they were getting. And then the worst thing I had to do was a 15-6 event, and that was horrible. That was probably that really got me the worst and told me that I was pretty much done with everything in the Army.
Where did the 15-6 investigation happen at?
So they had just built this outpost right outside of Fob Pasab, or Wilson. I think it was Wilson or Pasab. And I think it was still 101st. It was 101st unit, and an IED blew up, and 5 or 6 people, they were in a little freaking, one of the mud hut things, and an IED came and blew up in front of the thing, and since it was a mass cash event, we had to do a 15-6, and they sent me there because I was, as the engineer with the explosive knowledge and stuff like that. And, they had it on video from whatever the blimps, once it happened, they focused all the cameras over there. And I felt freaking so bad trying to freaking question a platoon after they had just lost 5 or 6 guys trying to say whose fault it was.
Was this do you remember the unit? Was it 132?
No, it was a 101st unit. It wasn't a 10th Mountain unit.
Gotcha. So you and I just missed each other.
I think, yeah, you guys showed up right. We were probably halfway through our deployment when you guys came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be rough trying to ask those fucking questions to a platoon they just watched somebody.
Just lost 5, 6 guys, and you're trying to say, who was on security? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you? I'm like,
yeah. Did they have seatbelts on, or where were they at, or where were the trucks parked, or
I'm like, you're trying to find blame for, some guy blew up a truck right in front of a freaking mud hut that someone was on a roof and everything collapsed on them. Nobody died from the explosion. They all died from suffocation from the building falling on them. They were in their freaking sleeping bags.
Where are you at now in life?
Right now in life, I'm still up here in northern New York. I'm not in the Army anymore. I work for the Department of Homeland Security, and I think I got a great job. I get to come home every night to my family. I think everything's finally working out to where I feel like I'm still doing my part, but I still also get the family. I'm home every night with my family. I got time off with my family. I get to do things with my family and not have to worry about, not seeing them for a year or so at a time.
So how did you feel the Army helped you transition out of the military?
When I did get out, when I finally made that decision, when I came back from that deployment, and I want to say that was October. We got done in October, and my contract was up in February, and I just went and told the First Army, I said, I'm done. I'm not even re-enlisting. And they gave me the speech. I was at just under 18 years. And I had you could say 2-3 years to retire. And I said, I'm done. And, from October to February, I was like, I'm going to ACAP. I'm doing this. Got to get all my stuff. And I just wanted it over. So I can't blame all of it on whatever ACAP or what it's called now. I just wanted to hurry up and get through and get everything done. I had it did I have a job lined up? No. Did I have anything lined up? No. I just told myself that I would do whatever I had to do to take care of my family. If I had to work at Burger King and McDonald's, 2 different shifts, I was going to do that. But things kind of fell into place. I went to college, used my GI Bill. I worked at a mill, the swing shift. So I was working at a mill from 3 to midnight. I'd go to college full time from 8 to 3, come home and sleep, see my kids for a little bit in the morning, go back to school and finish that before I got this job with Homeland Security. And just, told myself that I just have to sacrifice to get everything to make sure my family was taken care of. And it didn't matter what the Army was going to tell me or what anybody was going to tell me. I was going to do what I wanted to do.
That is awesome. I'm glad. I'm very glad you're doing well. So if there was one thing that you could give, one piece of advice that you could tell somebody getting out, whether it's retirement or in the middle, what would you tell them?
That even no matter what rank you get out of, it's a sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice because I want to say Chris Egan, in your interview with him, said it the best. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a sergeant major when you get out of the Army. When you go into the civilian world, they don't care that you were a sergeant major. You're going to be the new guy. You're starting at the bottom, and I got it. I mean, I went to a training academy for my job that I'm in now, and I went to a new place, and I got it. I was a new guy. I was a brand new private, you can say, and I took it. I took the harassment, not hazing, just little things here and there, hey, go do this little shit job, go do this little shit job. And I got it until after, I did stand up and say, look, that's not how it is. You can shove that right up your ass. And I think after that, it was like they realized that I wasn't one of these 22, 23-year-old kids straight out of college trying to get this job. I did have some, I'd been around the block a time or two. But you gotta be willing to make a sacrifice in order to get to where you want to be.
Chris, that sounds great, man. Thank you for taking the time with me tonight.
No problem. And in a lot of your other interviews, things were good. That people, not everybody said everything that the Army did was great. Not everything the Army does is bad either. It's just, I feel, in order for you, what you got to do is, you got to take your life by the horns and do what you got to do, and not just rely on other people. You got to, it's your life. You got to do what you got to do.
That's scary for people, though. I'm telling you, it's scary, especially somebody.
People, yeah.
It's probably scary for somebody that's got 3 years left to retire and then they decide to get out. Not that the Army retirement is the end all be all. It's not that glorious, especially for enlisted guys, but still, it takes some balls, man. I respect you.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I made the right decisions when I made them, and I'm in a good place now.
That's good, Chris. Chris, you have my number now. If you ever need to talk or just want to bullshit, please call.
Right. But last thing I want to say on that, Scott,
yes,
is I'm going to give everybody my number too, because even after I got out, I went through some rough times, and some of my good friends who were in the Army, everybody says it. I'm there for you if you need me, but even in bad times, I don't think, but not everybody's there. But if you do, like, same thing, you give your number out, I'm going to give my number out. If anybody out there, anybody knows me, even if you don't know me, my number is 315-771-7709. You can call me anytime. I'll talk to you. I lost my brother to suicide. I haven't lost any of my good battle buddies to suicide, but other things. But there's still things. If anybody needs to talk about anything, they can give me a call too.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Scott. This is a great thing. I like what you're doing, you and Andrew.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Getting the message out about suicide prevention is a team effort. We need people to be brave enough to tell their stories. We need supporters to care enough to spread the word. If you have a story you want to share, please email us at survivingasacivilian.casting@gmail.com. And if you want to help share this project, like and subscribe to Surviving as a Civilian on Instagram and Facebook. The most important thing Andrew and I want to get across is that if you need help, get help. And if you can give help, please do it. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is at 1-800-273-8255. Until next time.